because I think together, all of your brands will probably have 20, 30,000 people following those pages. But they should just be notified right now that, hey, we've gone live. So let's see whether they tune in and pay attention to what we're doing. Okay, I think we're live. Live, everybody. Welcome to Founders Focus, folks. This is episode 38. This is one of my favorite things to do. A reason why is because I'm really interested in having conversations with people that have been so annoyed about the state of recruitment that they've gone ahead and tried to do something about it by creating technology and businesses which are changing the way in which we work and hire today. So today, it's my pleasure to invite onto the stage two gentlemen who have concluded, I think, one of the landscape shifting deals in our industry in 2023. It is, of course, the acquisition of Broadbean Technologies by Veritone. And we have got Ryan Steelberg, CEO of Veritone, and Alex Fourlis, MD of Broadbean, with us on Founders Focus. So welcome, Ryan and Alex.
Nice to meet you, Ryan.
Again. Thank you for having us. Look forward to speaking with you today.
Great stuff. Let's get straight to it, guys. Can you tell us, like, in your own mind, like when did this deal, when was it obvious that this deal was going to happen? There's a lot of folks watching this that might think, okay, how does this actually work? You know, is it my people speak to your people, or is it a case that you just DM'd Alex or something and it just went completely bilaterally? Like, how did the deal actually start, and when did you know it was going to be done?
Well, I mean, as you may have touched on in a previous episode, Veritone has already made, a material investment in this space, with, initially, over, a year and a half ago with the acquisition of PandoLogic. Really one of the pioneers and leaders in programmatic job-based advertising. And so that was an opportunity that, frankly, from my perspective and Veritone's perspective, we're always looking at businesses that are large, right? Opportunities and TAMs that have big scale, obviously human-based labor, people looking for jobs, people, being recruited for jobs. It's most companies, almost every company's largest expense, right? It's big, it's changing, it's messy. There's expansion, there's contraction, but it's ripe for always improvement, disruption, etc. So the talent acquisition, recruitment, marketplace opportunity was something that we've been looking at for a long time. PandoLogic happened to check a lot of boxes for us initially, where the application of what they were doing in recruitment and HR was the output of their AI and programmatic was job-based advertising. We at Veritone have a lot of expertise historically on all things advertising and ad tech related. So for us, this was a first great initial kernel of an opportunity for us to say, boom, find something. We're very strong believers that this is going to be more data driven. We believe that this over time is going to become more programmatic. And obviously that was a good setup. Frankly, from a lot of us starting to learn about the industry post the acquisition of PandoLogic and listening to a lot of our experienced staff, the opportunity in introduction to Broadbean was brought to me. And when we kind of looked at that opportunity and looked at their installed base, right, their strong presence in EMEA and APAC and other markets, where historically with PandoLogic, we've been primarily North America, and the fact that they've done such great integrations and extensive integrations with all these ATS systems, we really thought, wow, this is the art of the possible, right? If they take our know-how on AI and distributed, scalable, data-driven systems, and I can marry together, right, Broadbean and PandoLogic, I think we really changed the entire game here, right? For a multitude of different constituents, whether it's an enterprise direct or a staffing company, right, the full spectrum. So again, we can talk hours about it, but I think, this in my head makes perfect sense. Now it's obviously how these pieces, correctly come together. And I'll turn over to Alex and let him speak from his perspective. Yeah. But he kind of reminds me all the time, Ryan, it's not a new idea, right? I had the same idea, and here's how we can improve upon it. So I'll this was mine coming from, I'll say, a core ad tech, like AI background into the space. Alex, you're on live. Give us your opinion.
Let's satisfy the audience. Yeah, there was at some point at the end, and we had a drink at the rooftop of a hotel with in Irvine and all that stuff. But if you think about it, the last, I walked into Broadbean in January 2019, and my first question is, what do we do about programmatic, right? It was obvious, I think, the last years that with different pace, obviously at that time when I said that, I was thinking about the North American market a lot more than I was thinking the European market. It was something that you would see as a natural progression of what we're doing with job posting, right? Clients asking for more automation and partners and integration. So obviously, if you want to save time from the recruiters is posting the job, you look at automating the process, all the way to managing the entire budget and optimizing it programmatically, right? So that was the idea. A couple of years ago, when Career Builder pretty much said, we need to find a new owner for Broadbean, it was like the first category of businesses we thought. And interestingly, at that point, we were at the process of do we partner, buy or invest in building our own programmatic solution. And so we decided to do a open call to the market and just talk to different technologies. And very interestingly, I was looking 2 years old notes of the product manager a couple of weeks ago, and the feedback that we got, it was this is the best technology out there. The technology that even 2 years ago that the team at PandoLogic was building, it was what impressed our product team in terms of the ability to predict the outcomes and to drive the outcomes for the end client. So that was our first, let's say, understanding that this would be a great marriage. It took a bit more time, with these processes. We started talking at some point, last year, and then we got the great outcome a couple of months ago. So that's it. It is a very, very logical coming together of two businesses. We are obviously on the Broadbean side, really interested to grow a lot faster in North America, and that marriage brings that. We feel we have a very common culture. We have a lot of complementarity in terms of we have 3,000 clients globally that we think we will benefit very much with a combined portfolio of solutions. And at the end of the day, yes, we enjoyed that first drink, and we enjoy every day working together the last week. So we're there.
How important is the chemistry? I mean, I totally get what you're saying. And I think even outside observers who know a little bit about Pando and Broadbean can see the fit, hey, this makes sense. But how important would you say is the personal chemistry between the leadership team? Is that actually significant at this level, or is it a point where actually it just makes so much sense that it doesn't even matter whether you get on or not? We're going to just push through on this. What's your opinion on that element? I don't necessarily want to locate it in the conversation purely between you guys, but just overall, what is the contribution of that just intangible, getting alongness, so to speak?
All right, I'll go first. So, again, Veritone is not just a holding company, or a new version of a private equity company that brought these two together, right? We're an operating company. Me personally, I'm very involved in the operations of a lot of our business units. The HR talent acquisition area is a strong personal interest of mine, not just of Veritone's. So in that context, yes, a lot of these, it makes perfect sense on paper, but culture is everything. And I think that, and thankfully, after going through a pretty aggressive, although Alex may think it took a long time, but we felt that we moved through this deal transaction relatively quick. The more and more time we have to engage with the people directly, it's not surprising. It's an HR talent acquisition business. You would expect that their social EQ would be higher than a lot of the tech businesses I've worked with in the past, but it's very important, right? Culture is extremely important. Communication is extremely important. PandoLogic, yes, they have a large North American presence, but they have a large group in Israel and based out of Tel Aviv, right? So again, we've fully appreciate the opportunity and challenges of now managing a business that has significant presence, North America, UK, Tel Aviv, right? And bringing that all together. London, ironically, is a great hub in terms of a central location as a new cornerstone, a little pun intended maybe, of what we're doing here from a global, worldwide presence. And we just want to, so that's another thing that kind of checked the boxes. We want to follow the sun. Whether we don't want any customer of any size to not have the same level of opportunity, support across, and I think this, for many things. But again, it does come down to the people, and it's been great. Alex has been a great partner to work with, and we're very, very excited, for him to be, staying on and being a very important leader for us.
Yeah, I would say for us it's the same. Like one of the three kind of like bullet points I had in the back of my mind when we're talking with investors was culture fit. I find it really important. I started, my first business in this space was a job board back in Greece when I was like 20 years old with two of my best mates, right? And because we were probably best mates, we had this saying that, if you want to write history, it was coming from a Greek song, you need to do it with a great company, right? So I really believe, like, if you really want to build a business and a solution for the future, you really have the people to feel that are working very closely together. They need to hit kind of a mojo and be able to really move forward. So for me, that was always a really important factor. And I think we had it at Broadbean. I think we had we were a bit notorious about that. But as I said, from the first kind of meeting we had with Pando people, we also felt very comfortable that, these are people that we can trust. They're knowledgeable. We can work together and we can build great things together.
We cannot deny who we are. We are social beings, and businesses are social organizations, right? So when it's literally two tribes coming together, or even multiple tribes, when you're sort of looking at the global context, as Ryan mentioned, those things, there's going to be like some kind of sniff test to begin with. There's going to be a little bit of look and see. So very, very important. I think in HR, sometimes we can kind of try to diminish that because we're a little bit frightened of the concept of bias. We're a little bit frightened of, the non-rational elements of decision making. But I think in reality, a great deal of the things that make a yes/no for us are not necessarily rationally processed. They're going to be based on intuition, and it's going to be supported by rationalization. But very rarely are we going to be making great decisions against our instinct. They often sort of turn out to be overly rationalized, I think. So it's an interesting to know that kind of even occurs at the very high level of business operations. And of course, this might occur at the very low level of, hiring for the first job or whatever it might be. Okay. Hard work starts now. So this is integration. I think integration is inherently a nightmare. Like it's one of those things that, okay, this is going to hurt, guys. We just got to grit our teeth and go through it. Did you have in advance some intuition as to what was going to be the toughest part? I know you're still going through it, but what do you think going into this was going to be the toughest part of bringing the two together so that you can get the synergy? Any thoughts on this? Ryan, let's go to you first.
Well, I think at the highest level is this is a company that was owned, by Career Builder, owned by Apollo Group, and looking and having inherit different systems that this company's been using for. So I mean, we can spend hours talking about this, but keep it simple. Is the core systems, right, of getting access to controls of information, right? What's their CRM system? Are they a Salesforce shop? Like their financial system? Are they Oracle, or are they a homegrown system? So I think all those, as Alex touched on, we started this dance with Broadbean well over a year ago. So a lot of this due diligence and our exploratory opportunity of how that system is running from a systems and IT perspective, which is a major part, as you can appreciate, for integration, we started well over a year ago. So the good news is, thankfully, we're familiar, it just happened to be, with many of their systems. So, and obviously as an acquiring-based company, we've done this several times, right? So, so I think we have a great handle you have to just get a little insight. You have to be committed with dedicated resources, right, to expedite and get you through, right, the integration stuff. So systems themselves can be resolved relatively quickly and mapped. A lot of the effort obviously is synergy and integration for consolidated go-to-market roadmaps, and looking at what the short and longer term org are. And again, I'm not going to go into too much detail about those more proprietary, sensitive areas. But no, it's something that I think we're making great progress. We started great progress before. Obviously with PandoLogic already have done integration work from a technical perspective with Broadbean a long time ago. We're stepping in here, really almost hitting the ground running. So we have high expectations to have no disruption of quality of service for our existing products or services. But we are very maniacally bent on delivering at least aspects of our future integrated vision here as quickly as possible. And obviously for a few select partners, some of the next generation stuff that I'm really excited to bring with Alex and team to the market opportunity is something that we're excited to talk to partners. We'll talk a little bit about it, but you could probably imagine that data and AI is going to be a very big part of everything we do. And I think we're just scratching the surface of what the art of the possible is together. So those are just a little bit of insights on integration. Alex, maybe you can touch on it from your perspective as, frankly, being owned by Career Builder as a subsidiary, and it's a whole different perspective.
Yeah. I think it's managing the pace, as I said, like the expectation both on the market and also on our own employees is that we will have to move. We can move now extremely fast, right? But at the same time, we have to keep two things in mind, that you need to have all these systems integration happening on the back end, and we are also we have to be careful because we have to be really focused. There's the market situation out there for the recruitment industry is not the best. It's not if we think about 18 months ago, there was so much demand that you could say, okay, even if I don't focus on the right thing, on the right solution, on the right opportunity, I will still grow very fast. We want to grow out of the gates, but given where the market is today, which there's scrutiny on budgets, on proving ROI, on getting the best possible value to the client, we have to be really focused on making sure that we continue the integration, but also choose the 1, 2, 3 priority solutions that will really do the work for the clients. And I think that's the difficulty here. You can get super excited and you can dive into all the 50 different opportunities and ideas that everybody brings to the table in a situation like this. But it's a moment in time where we have to be super focused, do the basics right, and grow out of there.
And that's actually one of the key kind of jobs of leaders, isn't it? The ability to say no, take stuff off the table. Isn't that a classic Steve Jobsian kind of approach, isn't it? It's very easy to say yes because there's lots of great, smart people are coming up with great ideas that yes, you should be doing. However, you don't have finite capacity, you don't have finite time, so you have to say no to things that basically you cannot prioritize. It's similar to saying, how many priorities do you have? If you have more than one, it's not a priority. You haven't made a decision. So what is the thing that you have to commit to and you have to execute? Very, very good. Always culturally difficult, sometimes challenging when big change happens, positive or negative. How did you handle the communication aspect of it? Because we all know that obviously you need to have, a confidential sort of a process all the way to the very end. There's going to be a few surprises to the team. They're going to think, oh, wow, why didn't I know about this? How did you handle the comms on that? Is there a best practice you could share and say, you know what, this is the thing that went well, and maybe that could have went better? What are your thoughts on that? I guess directed more towards Alex on this one.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, we had a great understanding, at that point, that we don't need to rush the communication, right? We understand that this will be really exciting. The team at Veritone are experts, really. They have their own agency on the other side of the business. They are one of the premier experts in media and entertainment, and not just the technology side, but the actual the running of those businesses. So we had great guidance from them on that. So I think that wasn't particularly a difficult part. Yeah, obviously there's like everybody's like looking forward to get ahead, but it's a public business. It's in NASDAQ, so we have to follow process, right? But for us, I don't think that was like a particularly difficult point to adjust. As I said, like if you have something interesting to say, and I think that, as you mentioned since the very beginning, this is a very interesting story for the market. There's a lot of people coming at you. As soon as we made the announcement, we could see, from the questions we're receiving from clients, when very interesting, when we announced at the Broadbean level, I was on the other side, the career builder side. It was damage control, the first announcement, because it was a job board owning a business in this sector. There was a lot of fear of how the market will react. The clients may object. Other job boards might drop out. It created like the communication we had to do at that point in time was defensive. Here, I think there was so much interest and so much positive reaction that it wasn't really a difficult thing to accomplish.
I think the only thing I would add is just, on a internal tactical comms, less is better in terms of people in the know, obviously, right? And this one we had the luxury is, we were able to still advance so much of the discussions on like discovery because we were business partners and technology partners already. We were already working together. So you could always, as we're advancing strategic discussions, you could offset a lot of the proprietary stuff under the guise that were a technical integrated partner. That's something that is not always, it presented itself as in this opportunity. It's not always the case in other transactions. Second thing is, I think in Alex's team and their comms and marketing team and the Veritone team and the PandaLogic team did a fantastic job of making sure we were all, fully equipped with the appropriate messaging comms, right, in the right sequence. Just that extra effort of timing, and you can imagine, and you touched on it because you've obviously talked to other people about this, but our teams love it when we tell them, oh, it's being moved up 2 days or it's being moved back 3 days, right, in terms of the messaging. But again, I think just being, part of the culture, and it kind of ties to comms is, at times, Alex is in his personality disposition. I'm the same way. We're pretty transparent and frank, right? And at times you have to govern that as a public company executive. But I think that mindset when you're communicating to your staff also has a big benefit. So again, I think the combination of everything Alex went through and just the intimacy of how we were working together already afforded us the opportunity to keep this under wraps. Even with the chat and cheese guys out there, like pounding doors and sniffing
chat and cheese.
Else a plug.
Throwing cheese everywhere. They're everywhere. I saw those guys last week, and obviously they were a disgrace as usual.
I believe that was a Wreckfest, right? That was a interesting derivative of Coachella.
That's right. You know what, Ryan? Next time we need to see you there because I think you'd enjoy it a great deal, as well as you, Alex. But yes, it's basically the UK version of Coachella in recruiting, and in fact coming to the United States later this year. Wreckfest is happening in Nashville, I believe. So that's happening in September. Chad and Cheese will be there, of course. So if you want to shake their hand or throttle them, you can do it. You can do it on the 14th of September in Nashville, Tennessee. Okay, let's sort of zoom out a little bit into the marketplace. It's been a tremendously disruptive couple of years. Polycrisis is the term, right? We've seen all kinds of crazy things happen. I think if we all looked at it, 2019 onwards, we think, yeah, sure, change is normal, but none of us would have predicted the sort of change, the level of change that we've seen run across the globe, really changing how companies think and operate, and individuals, their relationship to work, their relationship to companies, and so on. What do you see as sort of the wider trends that are going to impact how companies think about hiring? So, for instance, both Pando and Broadbean operate primarily with jobs that I would say are full-time jobs. That's the traditional way in which you post a job. Now we're seeing part-time stuff. We're seeing fractional working happening. We're seeing, everyone's a gig worker. is that bleeding into your thinking in terms of building product now? Like, are you trying to think, okay, maybe the future work does look fundamentally different from what we used to before. We kind of need to put products around this and make sure that we're kind of on trend with how people want to be working and maybe how companies want to be operating with individuals. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'd say that there's definitely considerations around this, right? We're integrating with a lot of ATS and CRM systems, and now we start thinking, okay, there's now VMS systems. There's all these like new platforms, and I wouldn't call them publishers because they're not really publishers. They're marketplaces of temp and contract work. And how do you approach this on our side? So yeah, there's definitely a thought process like that. We need to start looking at those opportunities. Remote completely, changed at some point how we would view location, around the jobs, and how do you advertise a job which is like ubiquitous, right? Where do you put it in front of an audience? Like, is it a global location? Is it a European location? Even, within the UK, you could see a job posted in, 10 different local markets. So it creates new problems, but it also creates new opportunities. And at the end of the day, I think it expands the market, right? I think what we've seen with that is, and it's the first time we see that, like, we are in a process of economic recession, but there's still a completely different movement of the labor market. We're still seeing, pockets of the labor market with very strong demand. We are seeing we've had for the first time the word decoupling of the labor market from the economic situation, right? So definitely it affects how we think. We start looking at new solutions when it comes to temp and contract work. We were at the Broadbean side already doing a lot of work around that, so it's not something that we are completely agnostic about, but definitely in the future it seems it's here to stay, right? I cannot see all those marketplaces, the investment, the amount of investment of companies on becoming a lot more flexible when looking at their labor base. That won't change. That's here to stay for good. So we need to also adjust the systems and processes to it.
Yeah, and stuff like location is not like a trivial thing. I mean, that broke a load of job boards, didn't it? Because it was one of the key sort of ways in which we mapped a job to an opportunity to an individual. Was, hey, where are these people based? What does it mean when the guy says we're remote work anywhere? Does he really mean that? Sorry, Alex, you're saying?
Yeah, and just an example of how it affects even our day-to-day work, right? We're building feeds with 7,000 job boards across the world. There was at some point that we were getting almost 10, 15 feed updates every month, which was just job boards incorporating the remote option in their APIs in the feeds, and you had to rewrite the whole thing, and then you need to educate the user, which might not be a user in Broadbean, it might be a user in Bullhorn or in a Workday, of how to use now the new capability, because one publisher, LinkedIn, at some point changed the way they approach remote posting, right? So it definitely creates a lot of new challenges, but it was something that because of our expertise and that stuff, was something we were able to adapt and even guide other publishers of how to do it, and guide our users of how to approach it.
Yeah, and this is, I think, where programmatic is actually going to be very significant, because it takes away a lot of the work from a human being that tried to figure it all out. I mean, it's amazing that programmatic is still fairly underdeveloped in outside of North America. I think there's definitely a big gap. Maybe you speak to people in the EMEA sector, and programmatic is still, pretty much a niche play. It's yes, it's an honor to do. We're looking to investigate this, and it's it's been around for a couple of years, folks. It's some obvious benefits to this. Ryan, over to you on programmatic. Why do you think there is that lag? I mean, we always like to say, US is ahead, but this, that, and the other. Okay, great. But should it be lagging this far? I mean, what's your interpretation as to why the take-up is so different between those two marketplaces?
Yeah. I think it all comes down to commitment to become a true, and this is not a negative slight on certain markets, but a pure data-driven company, right? And if data is the lifeblood of AI, if data is the lifeblood of programmatic, by default, if groups are, let's say, still committing to manual distributed means of recruiting, where you have thousands of recruiters, right, who are partitioned a small budget, and that whole apparatus is not centralized, right? The data feeds, called censored data, like what ads are being responded to, and that's being centralized. You can't sprint to programmatic until you've committed to have a more integrated data-centric approach. And just some different companies are in different periods of the journey to become a more digital, right, data-driven organization. And so obviously in the US and North America and other areas, and I'll say this kind of followed in the programmatic display advertising market in the day, right? That you're seeing that just ahead. The second thing why there's been a lag is we're in a frothy market for a while, right? You don't have, when things are just like always up and it's just a relative of growth and there's so much hiring and, you don't, it's not always an impetus of change, right? You saw a huge spike in the display market as a crude analogy when the market crashed in 08, 09 and budgets got crushed, right? People still needed to spend and acquire customers. And so you saw a unique step function growth of programmatic. We all know and can read in the press about the reductions in talent acquisition and recruiting forces at companies, right? They're expecting a contraction. And so it's not like their companies are not going to continue to hire, even if they're just having to be more efficient on backfilling employees who have left or have been terminated. That still needs to be organized, and they have to be doing it more cost effectively. So I think now you're going to see by default is programmatic has been proven that it could fill jobs, and particularly when you talk about these complexities of part-time jobs, right, where there's an immediate time to fill. It's inconceivable that pure human effort can be able to manage this type of complexity and workload. So again, I think that you're going to see these markets catch up a lot faster and see an accelerated growth of programmatic, not just here in EMEA and APAC and around the world, but even on an accelerated basis, even in the United States and North America.
Very interesting observation, Ryan. So what you're saying is basically, I think we're all aware that there's been a lot of reduction in force from typically technology companies, but other businesses of that type as well. And the TA functions, the internal recruitment functions, of course, have been, widely exposed by that. Even to the point where Mark Zuckerberg made it a bullet point in his first announcement I say, hey, it's going to hit TA more than anybody else. So we know this is a big deal. Now, what is going to happen is basically you're going to have much skinnier TA departments that will need to lean more heavily on technology because guess what? You can't just throw 100 more recruiters at this. We need to think about how can 10 recruiters do the job of a larger number more efficiently. And of course, both Broadbean and Pando would provide that on the ad side of it. And adverts should actually work more effectively, right? In a market where there's more candidates, I guess, or, would you say that's also the case that, we went through a big era of sourcing only, if you remember, again, rewind back to 2019, it was like, hey, you can only ever get a good candidate if you headhunt them or whatever. Anything through ads was, average, mediocre person. Now we've swung back to the point where actually ads seem to be a very efficient way to generate candidates. So perhaps we swing back in terms of our focus and spend more of our remaining budget away from sourcing and into the ad side of it. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think the ads are more effective due to the market conditions and candidates are being a little bit more active than they were a couple of years or so ago?
Yeah, we can see even from our average numbers of candidates per job across the UK that there are more candidates in the market. The last 3 quarters consistently a return of the slightly now larger number of candidates, not still at kind of pre-COVID levels, but definitely that plays a part, right? Yeah, if you have the traffic and if you can find the people, that plays a part in the performance of the ads. I think the whole ecosystem is also becoming more mature. We have seen, 4 years ago, if you ask how many big publishers in the UK would have a similar offering of pay for performance, or having the way to really make those ads work didn't exist. Now we are seeing more and more publishers like being ready to adopt the model as well, right? So I think the combination of those forces, the recruiters have to do more with less with the budget, and the publishers that are a lot more open to that and not really kind of like super protective about their legacy business model, it helps, and will create the demand in the market, and we see that service approach grow.
Yeah, I mean, I just add, technology, and obviously with job boards getting more sophisticated, ability to look at dynamic ad job copy, right? Enhanced targeting, all these things are perpetual, right? In refinements and improvements, just like you've seen in other forms of advertising. You still have to have the right message in front of the right individual at the right time, right? Get them engaged. And there's just a trust factor too. I think people who are job seekers, right? They're having, trust in these job boards. And so I think it's a combination of a multitude of different factors. And again, I agree, it's going to continue to accelerate, and advertising, and adverts will be, again, a very material, and it's going to be a mainstay for the foreseeable future for acquisition.
Yeah, very interesting. As we're talking about ads, Ryan, I'm probably going to lean into you a little bit on the next question. Obviously, the technology story over the last 7-8 months or so has been the rise of generative artificial intelligence, and that's been astonishing, I think, to anybody who's played with it. There is kind of a deeper theory that because generative AI may change the way in which people consume information, it may take people away from websites because you can consume it based on the generated copy produced by whatever you're looking at in the first instance. So, for instance, if you look at Google, was it generative search or something they're saying? Google primary sort of portal to the internet for most people. They're now going to generate you the information rather than point you to a list of blue links. Doesn't that sort of pose a significant threat to ads in general, Ryan? What's your take on that? And when you're speaking to your ad tech buddies in industry, what's your view on, I guess, the wider threat of generative AI to ads in general?
Oh, sorry. My screen went dark a little bit. Almost had a heart attack there.
Ryan, by the way, is balancing.
I mean, I'll try to do a succinct version of that answer. The ad tech industry, has, again, as one of the primary pillars and impetus for advancement of AI, right? Google, right? The main financial mechanism, right? And element of that is advertising, right? This industry, the ad industry, which is going to be inclusive job, went through a cataclysmic change when we went from the desktop to the mobile phone, right? You lost screen real estate, banner ads went the way of the dodo, right? And you started to see a whole different multitude. So point one is, having been, in that industry since 1994, going through these periods of time where there's a fundamental shift of, right, the people are still there, the audience is still there, but the distribution and format has radically changed. Let's just say the industry, it brilliantly finds a way, right? And so what you're seeing here is the transformation from search to natural language, right, creates a very daunting task. Google brilliantly is efficient when you combine AdWords and legacy AdSense, right? That the ability to buy at scale and real-time programmatic bidding on a search, that makes a lot of sense when it's a structured search result, right? The way we look at a search result on Google. When that turns into a conversation, right? How are they going to engage and embed the advertising? So, orthogonally to all the display, native-based advertising has been on the rise, right? This is incorporating, right, advertising and adverts with and into, I'll call it the content or the conversation. And that's been a very growing, and Google and a lot of these people who have some of the brightest minds out there, they, let's just say, are well ahead of understanding this transformative shift, right? So is there going to be a change of behavior of how we search and query for information? Absolutely. Appropriately, there will be, and some groups will be better than others, right? There will be, partners and technologies and platforms that really are ahead of the curve on how they are going to incorporate brand advertising, recruitment advertising, and sponsorship with and into this transformation. So again, it will change the amount, like what we think is the amount of advertising perception may change. But just think it'll be an evolving form of sponsorship and engagement, right? And we see it right now. I mean, you and I will listen to great podcasts, this one included, right? I can start doing a promotion for HelloFresh, right? Conveniently in this, and arguably that will potentially be more effective than this banner ad that goes across this right now. So it will evolve, but absolutely you're going to see complete disruption, and some companies are frankly become obsolete because they don't know how to take advantage of the transformation and delivery into natural language from a search result.
Yeah. And for me, I would say like the interesting thing is I just feel very comfortable because I know that Veritone and the other groups in the company are so much intertwined of what's happening in ad tech in general. And, we all know rec ad tech is a little bit further behind. So a lot of the things that I'm seeing like the teams doing, it's kind of blows my mind. Okay, how can we bring these things into rec ad space? We still have, a lot to go. Yeah, the delivery of the content might change eventually at some point, and it'd be more like kind of, podcasting or influencer marketing, and we're going to have people like, really using video and other means to change the format of the ads. But the great thing is like, because we are now part of a group that is at the forefront of all this on the ad tech space, we can pick and choose and use the things that we think apply to recruitment technology better and work on that.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the case, isn't it? Where you've got, I think my screen went black as well at the same time, Ryan. I think it's simply power saving, isn't it? It essentially, Ryan and I are very concerned with the environment. So we've got a 15-minute stopper on our screen. So if we don't move our cursor, it goes black and gives us a shock. But okay, listen, let's sort of bring this one home. One of the reasons I think people like to watch and listen to Founders Focus is because they do have ambitions themselves at one point, maybe to set up a business, maybe they want to be an entrepreneur, maybe they're working at this point as just an employee, but they've got ambitions to take leadership at some stage. Let's have a think about those folks and see whether we can address some of the questions that they might ask. In your journey as a professional in the industry, what sorts of things do you think have been most important for you to have got to the position that you've got to? Can you point to any kind of behaviors that you've learned over time to think, you know what, I can lean on this because it's proven to work for me. And no matter what happens going forward, this is the thing that's going to continue to put me in the right place. Let's go with you firstly on that one, Ryan.
Naivety at times is great, right? Having, be able to forget your failures, in terms of not stressing about them and being able to move on. I mean, there's all these critical components of being an entrepreneur. Thankfully, transitioning from, going to med school, plan at UCLA to, thank God, the internet came along and started, our first ad tech company in 1994. Yes, it's the right time and the right opportunity. And, we were, able to get onto, the early stages of a rocket ship, right, of a transformative technology stack. But, I think fundamentally is, you have to have, obviously, pick a right category and an opportunity that's big enough. Like, what's your vision of building something? Is the market size big enough that you put all this effort in? And if you're somewhat marginally successful, there's a decent size, addressable market. So I think that's a lot of people just need to think about. Are you trying to build something as a niche play and just sell it in 6 months and fit into a larger organization? Or are you really trying to go for it and make a dent in the universe? There's a million things we could talk about, but I think my luxury is, for every early business, my brother has been my business partner, right? So if you talk about trust and culture, I mean, it's hard out there, right? Give me 4 people, one brilliant coder, right? A brilliant marketer and people I trust, and let's go in a foxhole and kill it, because it's hard out there, right? I mean, everybody's going to get punched in the gut. We're all getting punched in the gut right now. We're having like the market is really kicking everybody in the teeth right now and trying to figure itself out. And I think ultimately is, not just having perseverance yourself, but do you have the right team that you can continue to trust on and have that discipline, right, and conviction to get through it. I'll end it, and I want to hear what Alex has to say, actually, as much as I can blabber on forever. But the one thing I would add is you said something earlier, Hung, about like instinct at times. So meaning, at times you don't have all in the empirical data to make, there's always a gap, right? When you're trying to make a decision on many things. This is a prime example of this industry. There's lots of change, right? So there's consolidation, companies buying and selling, the industry's changing. You have to make predictions at some point in your vision, right, of your roadmap. And so that part of that is, again, with a good team is you can obviously listen to your customers and can continue to iterate fast on what exactly they need or looking for. But for us as entrepreneurs who are in the industry, we have to make predictions. We have to have some vision, our own proprietary vision of where the puck is going. And so I think that skill set of a couple of those different variables are critical. And thankfully, when I'm coming into this, I'm not a subject matter expert in HR and talent recruiting, right? I quickly have to use our expertise and marry that up with Alex and Modi and the rest of the Israeli team and our whole zeitgeist of opportunity. But I think that that's just another pillar, is having the confidence to make a prediction and go out and try to capture something and create or capture where the market is going, not just trying to catch up and be quick iterative. Alex, what do you think?
I think you pretty much covered almost everything I had to say. You talked about resilience. You talked about vision and like having a big enough target and having a team. So the only thing that I would add to that is I think always at the back of my mind, every time I walk into a meeting with a client, like we need to provide value, right? At the end of the day, the client buys our solution to get the best possible candidate at the best possible price, so that at the right time, right? So, and that's the same approach in everything, right? So if I provide value in my role today, or in my role when I built that first job board back 20 years, and then I had to sell it, and then I had to find a way that I would be valuable to my clients, to my partners, to my team. And I think that's that's something that I always remind myself, right? What am I doing? Does it add value? The other day, Ryan made a joke in a meeting. It was somebody sitting at the back of the room and made a comment, for like 2 seconds. And he said, like, now that added value. That was like, we all laughed, but that's the reality. Like at the end of the day, the clients will come to our business because we will help them get the right candidates at the right time, right? And we have to do that, apply that same logic in everything, even parenting and business and life.
Yeah, you need a North Star. I think that this is the Simon Sinek thing, isn't it? Like, you just got to understand. Sometimes, obviously, when you're in the minutiae of the strategy or you're implementing something and what have you, obviously there's little things that you have to do, but you have to look up now and again to just figure out whether you're still aligned with what that North Star is, because you might end up executing perfectly in a slightly in a direction that you didn't want to go, because that was the optimal way to do the execution. Keep, like, occasionally you got to keep looking up at where that North Star is to reorientate and make sure you're on plan. Ryan, you mentioned team. I love that, because and for the folks that are out there that maybe doing solopreneur and what have you, team might also involve like people that are around you. They don't necessarily need to be individuals that are in the business. It could be your partner, it could be your family, it could be your friends, it could be whatever. It could be the guy who cuts your hair. Whatever it is, someone who's got your back that you can bounce ideas off and can kind of get into your conversation, so you're not just sitting totally by yourself trying to figure it all out, because I think that's the worst place for any entrepreneur to be. You have to be open. to all kinds of inputs and have a trust group that can really tell you what you need to hear, because there's a bunch of people below that are going to tell you what they think you want to hear, and that's not information that's going to be very valuable to you on your entrepreneurial journey. Okay, folks, we've got 10 minutes left, so let's just talk about, swing us back to what's going to happen for Broadbean and Pando customers for 2023. Maybe a bunch of people are sitting there thinking, hey, I've got a Broadbean account, I've got a Pando account or whatever. I haven't heard nothing in terms of what I'm getting. What can you tell them that they're going to be expecting in the next 6 months, and then let's project out next 12 months? What kind of things might they expect? Ryan?
The obvious one is, we want to make it easier for our clients, the Broadbean clients, to fully embrace and understand the opportunity of programmatic, right? And we want to take that to an entirely new level, right? We want to help not replace, but bring, again, supercharge and super empower recruiters and, the tens of thousands of monthly recruiters that Broadbean users use. It's to get that powerful tool in their hands so they can start understanding the real immediate documented and ROI benefits of programmatic. And they can do it in conjunction with traditional posting, right? So that is an obvious one. I think the byproduct, the other things that you're going to see over time is an expanded commitment to more enhanced data opportunities. So people can, across the entire spectrum of our portfolio of products, they can start to connect these different signals, right? Truly marry the data and signals that are being produced through programmatic with Pando, through Broadbean, obviously through some partner ATSs. Data is gold, but data in disparate silos at times is worthless. So you're also going to see over time, our partners are going to take advantage of a radically enhanced view of integrated and organized data that can be actioned upon. What's working, what's not working, what do I need to change immediately? And I think that's a common one. And then you're just going to see, again, we kind of touched on about customer support. These are great businesses. They have killer products. We're not going to want to try to do radically anything new. We want to put our customers at ease that the whole world's not going to change here overnight. And what they love so much is going to be a radical change in usability in the UI. We just want to, we want to, shore up, the classic service opportunities. The whole world's not changing, in brilliantly fast. So we want to make sure that people feel empowered and confident that nothing radically is going to change. We, over time, are going to be introducing powerful new solutions. But there's going to be consistency, and that consistency of support that's always going to be there. And that, frankly, that's the mantra of Alex and the whole team here is, they got a great working, product. People love it. Lots of people use it. This is a transition. It's not going to be a binary switch.
Alex?
Yeah, I would say perfectly said that the initial obvious benefit would be incorporating, giving the clients the option, right? As we said, we talked about this journey from manually posting to auto posting to programmatic. We want to give the clients as soon as possible that option to make the decision of how do they want to spend their money and get the candidates as soon as possible. Then I think the second important thing, using all the expertise around data and AI, is visibility down funnel, right? We're talking about it for so long. We have the integrations with the ATS. We really need to work with clients, connect the dots with them in terms of data, to be able to start not just show them the ROI in the real terms they understand, hire or first day start, or any kind of signal that would prove the ROI, but at the same time use the signals that are important to drive the optimization of the strategy as well, right? So there are signals that are going to be used down funnel that will be reporting back to the CEO why this thing makes sense, and there will be signals that will just talk to the algorithm and improve the distribution of the budget, right? So that's the holy grail for us and our clients. And then from then on, I think there's going to be a lot more ideas that a lot of us cannot even predict today about going beyond, the typical channels potentially in the future, and beyond the typical content that today is a text ad at some point.
You know what? Improve the distribution of the budget, guys. That's the killer line. So if you're sitting there as a Broadbean customer, Pano customer, whatever it might be, you might expect improved distribution of the money that you have. That's got to be news to your ears, great news to your ears. And to be honest with you, again, that's the fundamental value prop of programmatic is going to be that. So I think generally speaking, the market is going to be very welcoming of the news that we've heard from you guys, because we do need to be more efficient with our ad spend. And I think this will certainly enable many people to do it. I did say at the beginning of our conversation in the green room, guys, there's not going to be any gotcha questions. That wasn't entirely true. There is a gotcha question, so get ready. You two. Broadbean, very much loved brand. Everyone thinks, oh my goodness, what's happening to the bean? Are you going to get rid of the bean, guys? What's the thoughts on this? And I know marketing is sitting there thinking, yes, that's what we're going to do. But what is the word from the top? Is the bean going to go?
Wow, that is a great one. Put me on the spot. These are well-established brands that have great brand loyalty. However, over time, right, as we're looking at a more integrated, holistic system, you can point to very successful opportunities what that Salesforce has done in the past, that SAP has done in the past, where they've made acquisitions to equally very loyal brands that they've acquired. But over time, as they consolidated that plan into the CRM global vision, and obviously Salesforce is much more than a CRM platform today, they've shown very effectively how you can consolidate brands over time, under a common right name. So again, immediate short term, the wonderful Broadbean name and even PandaLogic is still here. It's been a year and a half. But you can appreciate for our customers, as we add more functionality and feature sets, we don't want it to become confusing or overly complex for our customers, right, over time. So I would say, little telegraph, at some point in the future, you will start to see more brand consolidation. And again, a lot of people are going to be, now they're upset about that. Where I'm saying is that great, we'll have more consolidated marketing dollars to try to improve our products, right, to offset that. But again, no, this is going from a house potentially of brands to a branded house, and that does take time. But to be clear, most consistently, those strategies have worked long term. So again, I'm copying a few successful playbooks. We've done it a few times in the past, but again, this is not going to be overnight. So buy your T-shirts before they become too vintage.
Yeah, I would say 100% I agree. Like, yeah, there's definitely the the sentiment, but there's also, like, if we see even like your common friends at Candidate.io or Opening, when they go together with iSIMS, at some point, if you are a big brand in this space and you want to make like a bigger brand and invest in your brand and your clients, you have to make that decision. Otherwise, we will end up, and I saw this problem in the past, to be honest, with Career Builder, that we try to do a house of brands. We're not selling, luxury items, right? It's very difficult. And if we see all the big brands in our space, the Workdays, the LinkedIn's, the Indeeds, they all do the same thing, serve one brand. Like if you spread too thin, it's getting difficult. So I 100% agree that that's the future.
No, so there's the word, guys. Get your beanie T-shirts, get your beanies. They're going to be vintage and worth something. Someone should set up a shop, by the way. I'm sure that's going to be something that's a decent side gig for somebody. Okay, we are coming to the end of the show. So thank you so much to Ryan Steelberg, Alex Fourlis. It's been fascinating having a conversation with you two. Thank you so much for spending time with me today and having that conversation. I need to finish with a final question. What busy stuff are you going to do after this conversation? What's on the cards for the CEO of Veritone and the MD of Broadbean this afternoon?
Well, I'm going home eventually, so I got to go back to California. Veritone does have a couple other big verticals, right? Government, legal, and compliance, and so I say like at some point I got to get back to my day job of overall Veritone. But that would be my big agenda. But to be very clear, I mean, I'm excited. We expect a lot right out of this new division, and and Alex and team, we're excited to be working with. So it's supporting their efforts, being involved in the whole with them, and trying to quickly work through these integration things, because we want to go. We're hyper competitive, and I got a lot of energy, and we want to go fast. So I'd say I'm ready to roll up our sleeves and service our customers the best we can.
Yeah, we just going on we're meeting some of our ITS partners, and I think that's crucial, and that I always keep in mind that we won't be lost in integration planning. We have to work on our roadmap heavily, but everything has to be influenced by clients and partners, right? So we continue meeting hopefully every afternoon our clients and partners. They should hold us true to our word here and what we need to deliver, and they should give us like ideas of how we can do it even better. So as I said, like we'll be part, and we'll have the community kind of help us drive the course over the next weeks and months.
Fantastic stuff. Ryan, Alex, let me let you go. Thank you so much for your time, folks. That was Founders Focus. I hope you've enjoyed the show. This will also be out as an episode of the Recruiting Breakthrough podcast, so you can replay it back at your leisure. Ryan and Alex, thank you so much for your time. That's it. We'll see you next time.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Cool. Wasn't that great, everybody? I think so. What a fantastic show that was. Make sure that you follow the channel on Crowd